Should your ads be clean and polished or raw and authentic?
Let's talk about that.
So, Matt, here we are on the Talk set once again.
Yay!
Glad to have you here with me today. We are talking about meta ads, and we are talking about authenticity. Should your ads be high production, really polished, amazing spectacles, or should they be simple? Should they be sort of really, sort of almost basic?
I think it should be a mix of things.
So you could say, it depends.
Yeah.
There you go.
It depends.
There you go. Okay. So, why? Why does it depend?
So, first and foremost, paid social is a social media channel, obviously.
Sure.
So it's and this isn't necessarily relevant to just Meta ads. It can be TikTok.
Yeah.
The various other platforms. In terms of social media, we are interrupting people when we put an ad in front of them. So creating an ad that is authentic and social first typically will work well with stopping people in their scroll.
Is that because they almost don't realize it is an ad?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I think there's this thing about, because it's now an ad and we're putting money behind it to push that out to audiences, that it then needs to be like it's an ad, where actually we see the kind of opposite in the data. Not always. And that's why it's important to have a mix. So having those kind of more social first, authentic, relatable ads that build connection, but then also having a mix with then, promotional ads, more static ads, more high-end ads. Having that mix is just going to give the platform more to work with, and us as advertisers as well.
Do you think that the target audience has a big factor in what you should go for, whether it's authenticity or something a bit more polished?
In terms of,
do you think? I'm thinking. Do you think like an older audience is going to be more likely to prefer the more polished, more almost TV-like ads than, say, a younger person who is maybe more likely to like something that feels like it's someone just filmed it on their phone?
I don't see there's a difference in the data.
No?
Because I think for me, we're all still just human.
Sure.
We're not just human. Humans are great. Yeah. But I think, we are human. And there is that, people buy from people thing. I know it's like a bit cliche and it's said and done, but I do strongly believe that when we can talk to people authentically and connect with them through authentic and relatable ads, that is what works really, really well. So for us to be able to do that, it's really understanding who that audience is. So that could be like you're sort of saying in terms of the audience, like from a demographic perspective, age, gender, but then also what keeps them up at night, what excites them, what solution are they looking for, what are their pain points. And I think if we can include that as much as possible in a social first ad that's authentic, that's typically where we will see some really strong results.
Interesting. Do you think there's a certain amount of sort of trickery to this, where you almost want to make someone feel like they're not watching an ad for as long as possible? And then if that is the case, do you think that could have negative implications to the sort of engagement of an ad? So I'll give you an example. When I'm on TikTok and I'm scrolling through, there will be times where I come across an ad and I don't realize it's an ad for a bit. And then once I do realize it's an ad, there is a little part of me that is like, oh, like they sort of tricked me. And then I almost feel like out of spite, I want to move on.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it's striking the balance of it not being too clickbaity.
Sure.
We don't want to trick people.
Yeah.
We want to leverage the platform. So Meta, TikTok, they will reward us for high engagement on ads.
Okay.
And typically the data says that those ads that get more engagement are those that are more kind of not an ad as such,
Sure.
but what is, native to social.
Yeah.
And therefore, typically, that's why the results will then be better on the post-click and the ROAS and the conversion.
Yeah.
Because that ad is being rewarded by the platform and is being shown in front of more people because it's getting higher engagement on it.
Before we go any further, if you're enjoying today's Tea Talk, you'll love our Grow with Evergreen podcast. Specifically created for home, garden, and lifestyle brands, it's a podcast dedicated to discussing paid media and marketing. Every episode, we're joined by a brand that wants to grow online. We delve into their business, dissect what they're doing, and define a digital growth strategy they can take and deploy into their business. And best of all, you get to listen or watch along, then take those learnings into your own business. Make sure you check it out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But for now, let's get back to today's Tea Talk.
Do you see a difference across platforms in these sorts of ads? Like, do you see more sort of these sort of almost low budget, authentic sort of ads on, say, TikTok more than Meta, or is it sort of growing across all platforms?
It depends.
We've got it in there again.
So TikTok, typically, they will actually claim themselves to be a entertainment channel or entertainment platform rather than a social media platform. So there's that kind of nuance with TikTok. It is about being entertaining. So I think there's kind of what makes up a perfect ad is you could argue that part of that is an entertainment factor.
Sure.
Which typically will work better on TikTok.
Okay.
Through testing, though, often using a TikTok post and then bringing it into Meta and testing it there, that often works well as well because it's been created as a kind of organic post first.
Yes.
So therefore it's more considered as a social media piece of content rather than it being an ad.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of brands fall down is they think, right, okay, I'm going to create an ad, so it needs to feel like an ad, or I'm creating an ad not for social, but then I'm going to use that ad for social. So the channel hasn't been considered first. So then you lose that authenticity and that relatability.
It's interesting because I was having a conversation with Lou, our head of paid search, about YouTube ads and how a lot of the time you will see ads that are made for TV that are then repurposed for YouTube, and it's not purpose made.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a really interesting point.
Yeah. So I think there's that with TikTok, more kind of entertainment-esque.
Yeah.
When we're talking about relatability and authenticity, again, that doesn't mean low production or budget.
Yes, I think this is
That's
a really
where
good
people
point.
get a bit mixed up.
Yes.
I think that it's not. I'm not saying don't consider quality, good lighting. All of those things that you know way more about than I do. It's not about creating rubbish videos.
That's it. You're exactly right. I mean, I have actually, on this show, we have had comments that have criticized my opinion of low quality content. I've had genuinely,
What do you mean?
you know who you are. If you commented, I'm coming for you. We had someone basically a while ago, it was a long time ago, but we had someone commented basically saying that he completely disagreed with my opinion on low quality content versus high quality content. And I think essentially there was just a bit of a misunderstanding that, as you just said, when I think I used the phrase low quality content, what I meant was low budget content.
Yes.
And as you say, that doesn't mean you're not considering the lighting. It doesn't mean you're not considering your shots. It doesn't mean not considering what you're saying. It doesn't mean there's no thought going into it. It just means that you're not hiring out a studio. You don't have runners and gaffers and second directors and a director of photography and all of these people. You're just doing it on a low budget.
Yeah.
And you're doing it in a way that looks authentic. And when we say authentic, what we really mean is authentically organic.
Yes.
You're almost making it so that it kind of could look like you're just filming it on your iPhone, because it feels more real, and people like real over fake. But I mean, I always say what's really interesting actually is you can always spot an Instagram account for a company that is run by a millennial versus one that's run by someone from Gen Z. Because the millennial one will always look super polished and their whole feed will match and everything. And the Gen Z one will just be sort of slapdash.
Yeah.
And you might think that one is better than the other, but actually a lot of, so I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of people will engage with the Gen Z one more because it feels like it's run by a real person rather than it's being run by this machine of a company. And it's why I think a lot of channels that are doing, and these aren't necessarily ads per se, but a lot of channels that are doing content that is sort of, we've talked about it before, EGC, employee generated content.
Yeah.
They're getting a lot more engagement because again, it's showcasing that human element to it.
Yeah.
So just talking to that one guy who left the comment, I'm actually replying now about 6 months later. I didn't mean low quality content, as in you don't care. Of course we care. It's just making do with what you have. Because some people, when you're starting out especially, you don't have the budget to do huge shoots with all sorts of people and incredibly expensive cameras.
No.
So
exactly, you can get a great shot, or you can put together a great video. I think it's knowing how to do that and what to include. It's not necessarily what it's being shot on.
yeah, the idea will always be more important than the camera.
Yeah, exactly that. And then that just goes back to what I said right at the beginning, is what makes an ad feel authentic. It is that kind of relatability, joining the conversation that somebody's having in their head. So that's when you understand, the demographic, you understand the audience, you can join them in that conversation, around what they're kind of struggling with, and then how that product is going to overcome that struggle that they're currently having in a kind of day-to-day relatable way. And a lot of the time that is with people being in content.
Yeah.
And that what is why UGC, EGC, founder content, that kind of thing is what we are seeing work really, really well.
And the beauty is, we've all got people. Like a lot of the time, even when you don't have the most expensive equipment in the world, you got the people right there with you.
Yeah.
So use them.
Yeah.
Not in a horrible sense, of course. Don't use people. Use them willingly.
Yeah.
Only when they're willing.
Yeah. Don't force them, pin them down, and get a camera out in front of them. Do not do that.
I definitely haven't done that before. So yeah, I think that's a really good way of summarizing it. Is that it does depend, of course, as it is so often the case, but I think it's a really good way, especially when you're starting out, to showcase what you have in a really powerful way, and then you can then potentially move up to the more high budget stuff as and when you're able to.
Exactly, because what we're not saying here is only do that type of content,
That's
like
it.
only use UGC content. Yeah, it's about having a blend of creative. So the kind of social first, what I'm calling authentic, UGC creative, but then also blending that in then with the higher production formats if you have those, but also image ads, say, that are maybe graphic heavy or whatever, like that's having a nice blend that allows us to use us as advertisers, use all those different data points to optimize the campaigns and get the best results.
Amazing. Well, thank you for enlightening us with authenticity, and I think it's really interesting. So there you have it. Thank you for watching, and thank you, Matt, for being here.
Great to be here as always.
Yeah, if you've not already, I'm actually going to do a little bit of a plug to subscribe, because the numbers don't lie. About 98% of our viewers aren't subscribed. Can you believe that?
Get subscribing.
Get subscribing. Come on.
Never know which camera that
It
one.
will massively help us out if you do. We have actually surpassed our 500 creep. So we're over 500 subscribers, which is amazing. But now I'm hungry for that 1,000. So let's get to 1,000. If 98% of you aren't subscribed, just think how quickly we could get there. So it would do us it would be a big favor for us. So subscribe. And thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next one. Bye.